Hey Brad, so I am here with my cousin Veronica. I came to her house and I'm like, let me just, she wanted her hair done. I'm like, let me just record this just in case there was somebody else out there in the world just as confused as me when it comes to silk base lace. I just didn't understand until I literally had to do it. So I'm just going to start off by showing you guys my braid pattern, which I think I've shown you guys before, but I think some people are still confused. And you can actually use the same braiding pattern if you are doing like a closure sew-in, not just a closure like wig install. So obviously I started off by parting it in the middle, and then I'm going to braid the sides going vertical, so going down. And then I do part out a section that will connect this vertical cornrow so that it can go backwards. And I will also end up parting the very nape of her hair in the back so that she can have an anchor braid, because the wig that she has does come with clips on the sides, which, not clips, but combs on the sides, which could slide into the braids on the sides for extra security. And there's one at the bottom at this nape section right here, which can slide right up into this braid, just to make her closure a little bit more secure, even though I am going to be adding glue to it. And I pretty much continue doing this for the front of her hair. I braid it going down vertically as long as I part the middle part out. So the middle part was probably like, what, 5 inches, so I braid that whole 5 inches going down. And I do like to connect the braids, and I think this prevents lumpiness at the end, trying to like get all the braids to lay flat if you leave all the tails out. So I like to just take the tail of the first braid that I did, and I like to go ahead and join it into the next braid that I'm doing. And I literally do that pretty much for the whole head, to only make sure that I only have one tail of a braid at the end, which is going to be very easy to sew, and it will prevent lumpiness underneath her wig or her sewing, whatever it is that y'all be using this braiding pattern for. After I braid down one side of her head, I do like to go ahead and jump to the other side of the head, and I do literally the same exact thing. There's no difference in what I'm doing. The only difference is that once I braid this braid going backwards, I add that anchor braid, which was my first braid on the other side, up into this braid, because like I said, I do not like for the tails of the cornrows to just be all out, and then I got to figure out how I'm going to conceal them at the end to make this wig not lumpy as hell. So I go ahead and I take that anchor braid and I add it into the first braid of my cornrow on the other side, and pretty much everything else I did on that side was the same. For the back of her head, I do these braids a little bit bigger, but you have to like decipher how big you're going to do these braids based on how thick your client's head is, or how thick and how long their hair is, I mean. And yeah, but these braids in the back are significantly bigger than the braids that I do in the front. And the same technique that I do as far as grabbing the tail of my previous braid and adding it into my next braid is the same thing that I do here in the back. So because you're going to be doing that, you have to make sure that you don't part it out too big, but you do not have to like spend a lot of time braiding down anybody's hair, worried about braids being so small or whatever. Like that's not the objective here. For my very last braid in the back, I like to add my first tail, braid a little bit, and then I like to grab the second tail of the braid on the other side and add that to it. And then I just braid that down, and then you end up only with one braid that you have to worry about sewing up into the rest of the braids. And this will make for an amazing foundation for your sew-ins, your wigs, whatever it is that you're doing, and you don't have to worry about it being, not flat. Just tell your client or whoever hair you're doing, like, when you're taking this out, be careful, because remember that your hair is sewn up into the rest of your hair. So don't just go cutting the thread like crazy, or else you might end up cutting some of your hair off, and then she gonna be mad at you. So just make sure that she knows that ahead of time, to like, you know so you don't have any problems. So y'all, she laughing her ass off because I was confused as to what she brought me. Like, she dropped the closure off to get bleached, and I cannot bleach it because look how much lace I actually have. There's no point in me bleaching the knots of 1 centimeter of lace. The rest of it is just cloth, which is the silk. And I guess some of these come pre-bleached, like, but there's still knots on this part. If you can see it, it's clear as day, but I'm going to show you towards the end of the video how you would get rid of that. But I guess I don't usually use silk based closures because I know how to customize a wig. But I guess after doing this is easy for somebody who doesn't know how to pluck, doesn't know how to bleach, doesn't know how to do anything. And by the way, I did not pluck the little centimeter of lace at all either because I just felt like it would be pointless, especially for this style. So I put her wig on, and then I just outlined exactly where I wanted this wig, how far I wanted it to come out. That way I know exactly where to put my glue. I ended up putting about 3 to 4 layers of glue, and I'm just adding this glue right in front of her hairline, but I made sure to keep it right behind where I marked the concealer out. And yeah, I'm using a popsicle stick to do that. And the only reason why I'm not dragging the glue directly out the bottle is because the glue is almost done. So I just stuck the popsicle stick right inside the tube and, you know, got the rest of the glue out that way. But yeah, I did add about 3 to 4 layers of this, and I blended it out with a popsicle stick just to make sure that this layer was not too thick, or else it will seep through your lace and you'll be able to see that. So you want to make sure that the layers of glue are thin, and you want to make sure that it dries clear, not before you add your next layer necessarily, but before you lay the wig down in the layers of glue. After all my layers of glue had dried, I did use a blow dryer as well, like on a heat setting, just to like make it dry clear a little bit more faster. I did take the wig and I went ahead and I laid it directly into the glue. I could see where the glue was shining, so I knew exactly where to lay the hairline of the wig, right at the shiny part. And I'm just using my fingers lightly. I don't want you to think that I'm doing this really hard because I'm not. I'm using my fingers lightly just to press the little centimeter of lace that I have to work with into this layer of glue. Honestly, I was so confused. I'm like, why did Veronica bring this wig to me? Girl, you could have did this yourself. I think that's the point of silk-based closures for people who really don't know what to do, but whatever. I also did not add any makeup to this lace because I don't know if you could tell, but the lace is already brown. So I didn't want to add makeup and then make it darker than her skin tone, and it ended up blending out perfectly. As you can see, it doesn't look too light or anything, which is perfect. And there was like a little corners that were not laying down, so I'm just using my rat tail comb and adding a very thin layer of lace glue everywhere that I feel like the wig could be a little flatter. And then once I had that done, I just went ahead and I pressed the glue, not the glue, I pressed the lace into the glue to make sure that it was laying down. And I took this little fabric band that I have. By the way, everything will be in the description box. Don't worry. I tagged the links as so long as I can find them on Amazon. But I use this fabric and I tie down the lace. And I have her blow dried on the heat setting for a little bit while I wax the top of her wig to make sure that it is flat and there are no flyaways in the way. And I use my hot comb to basically mold that into place and to make sure that it's just laying as flat as possible. When the band came off, this is how it looked, and there's no point of me like plucking or doing anything because this is going to be laying so flat. It's not going to be pushed back at all, so you're not going to be able to tell if the hairline is thick or not, which I didn't think it looked bad anyway. For this hairstyle, there was absolutely, it's like this wig was so convenient. Like, it's so easy to put on. I feel like a dummy could do it, a baby could do it. You know how it be like the version for dummies? Anybody could do that. But what I had done was I sectioned off the front part of the wig and I evened out the hair in the back, which I will tag my layers video up here just so you can see a more in-depth video of how you can cut your layers, because I did not film that part. But once I got to the front, I took a piece from both sides. I took a piece from either side of her middle part, and she said she wanted her first layer to start like a little bit under her jawline, so I cut that right under her jawline. And now this will work as my guide to cut my layers on both sides. When you cut layers, you basically want to take hair little by little, starting with the very front, and then you want to grab some of the hair that you had already cut to work as your guide, and you basically just cut downwards in a slanted motion to achieve your layers. And if you want your layers to run from the front of the face all the way to the back of the head, you will do this all the way till you reach the back of the head. You keep grabbing hair up until you reach the middle of the back of the head. And like I said, I have a very in-depth video of how you will cut layers. I definitely recommend you go watch that if you really want to know how to cut layers, because in this video I'm not going that deep into it because I just made this video. But you can see a little bit of what I did here. And once the layers were cut, I took my flat iron, and just as I was bringing the hair towards the face, I'm curling the hair towards her face, just so that the layers can fall like so pretty like that on both sides. And I curl the hair like that, starting from the very front of her face all the way to the back of her head. And when you're cutting the layers up into the back, you just want to make sure that you part the back out just like the front is parted out in the middle. Make sure the back is parted out in the middle so that the layers are pretty much even on both sides, and you will have very even, very pretty, very easy to achieve layers if you just follow those steps. And yeah, this is how it came out pretty much. Girl, I was like, why is this side not curling like that? Like, why I feel like, girl, the flat iron was warm. It wasn't even on. It was warm from when it was on. But whatever. I had went back and did it again off camera. But all I'm doing here is using my hairspray to basically make sure that the top is really flat. The flyaways are not distracting and in the way. And then to hide the knots on the part, like I told you, I'm taking that same concealer, the LA Girl in medium beige, and I'm using my flat top brush. Like, it's a brush I use to do my eyebrows. It's flat, and I'm defining that part with that concealer. This, you don't see no knots when you do this, and it just makes it look a little bit more like scalp, even though the silk base closures is to look like scalp. And that is how you do that, guys. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.